So you finally have hired help, but now you feel like you're babysitting instead of getting time back. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about how to lead a team or manage contractors without micromanaging. Because hustle free entrepreneurship doesn't mean doing it all by yourself. It's key to build a business with the right systems and relationships so your business can grow with ease. Welcome back to the Hustle Free Entrepreneur. My name is Jesse, and I am your host. In this podcast, we focus on all of the things that are involved with running an event industry business and different perspectives so that you can have a holistic view on all of the different aspects of being a business owner. Hiring team members and partnering with vendors can sometimes be the biggest challenge that business owners face in the event industry. In fact, that's why it's very common for people to think like, oh, I can do catering, plus I can do the design, and plus I can do balloons, and I can do the floral arrangements. And they do all these different things. Sometimes it's based out of lack of trust of other people, and the fear of people letting them down. But it also is because there's not a strength in leadership or understand the importance of building a team. And in all fairness, in our industry, often we only see the main person that is the photo on most websites. But typically for these big major productions, it's not a one-man show. In fact, it can be multiple businesses working together to actually execute an amazing concept. This episode isn't only just geared for the solopreneur, it is also for those of you that are wanting to scale up, or you may be finding yourself in a position of having team members, but you're feeling pretty frustrated. And this episode is especially for you if you've ever said, I tried to hire, but no one doesn't like me or no one wants to work. Let's fix that without you turning into a control freak or you trying to do it all on your own. It's common for people to default to micromanaging or doing it all themselves because they feel as if that's the only way that things can get done, or you're feeling as if you're the only one that can do it correctly. Here's what I want you to know. Micromanagement is not leadership. It really is a symptom of poor structure with unclear communication or expectations. I remember years ago, I had found myself in a position that I was very overwhelmed, and I definitely felt extremely nervous about working with other people. Some of it was because I didn't know how to move forward. And the second part about it was that I did have someone that let me down. So I was in this position of thinking to myself, do I really want to put myself in that position again? What I had to do was shift how I saw that misunderstanding and that issue and seeing it as a learning lesson. And ever since I've had that experience, whenever there's a breakdown in communication, I have to sit back and look at what can I do to help with ensuring or reducing the possibility of that happening again. The biggest issue that comes with this is that sometimes when we're busy or when we're newer in business, and even for some of you OGs, because I feel that OGs can be some of the biggest offenders with some of the conversations that I like to talk about. It's just that because we've always done it this way, and it might have been 10 years ago, we're not looking at ways to run things smoother. Or it could have been that when you first started your business, you didn't have the time or the capacity to actually figure out what are the processes. So what happens is when we do hire people, sometimes out of desperation because we have a last minute opportunity, or just out of family members just helping us because they know we need help. What happens is that people sit there and say, well, if I'm doing it on my own, why would I even hire someone when it's just going to be me doing it anyway? And I always challenge people to say, if you're feeling that way, chances are you're either not hiring correctly or you don't have clarity in what you do so that you can train someone. What I do find is people actually create environments that they wouldn't even want to work in if someone had hired them. No one wants to work in an environment that's chaotic, where they feel disrespected and there's no true leadership. So you may be thinking to yourself, what does micromanaging look like? Some very simple ways that you can acknowledge or notice that this is something you may be challenged with is that you find yourself always rechecking everything because, of course, they can't do it as well as you can. So that often leaves you redoing all of the work, reading over each and every email, reviewing every aspect of the design. And then you also might find yourself giving feedback too late or none at all. So you just go ahead and do it all on your own. And what happens is that you burn yourself out or you burn the relationship of the team members that are assisting you. And we've all been guilty. I know I've been guilty of this. And the thing is that once you realize that that is not what works for you, and I personally am in the stage of my career that I don't agree to do any and everything. I rather work with some amazing people that do some pretty dope things. And that's what I lead with most of my team meetings and things of that nature. And the thing is that micromanagement is usually a sign that you skipped a key part of onboarding, expectations, or systems. And most people really are trying to do their best and be a part of a great team. The thing is, it comes down to the leadership of the owner that is going to either help with encouraging those types of relationships or is going to actually cause people to just not even have initiative. The biggest part that people fall short on when it comes to creating a team is that they think that this is something that they should do or wait to do once they have a team. I say this all the time when I'm talking to people on consultations, is that you want to learn how to manage yourself and create the culture in which you're desiring before you start even putting other people into the mix. Because what happens is that when you start to onboard people and hire people when there's brokenness, it's hard to one, train someone through that. And two, you have to then get yourself out of those bad habits. Because when you don't have clarity in what you're doing, or when you're hiring someone, they don't have clarity on what they should be doing, you just don't get the kind of outcomes that you're truly desiring. This is why it's super important to start now thinking to yourself, what does success look like? If you're hiring an assistant, if you're hiring an event assistant or someone that's in production, what kind of individual would you want to have? What type of work ethic? What are their skill sets? What are the things that they would even do? You want to have clarity on that now so that when you actually hire this individual, you want to make sure that they can do it. You may have a business that's growing, but you're like, I don't really like doing sales calls. Let me hire someone that does sales. What makes a great salesperson? If someone doesn't have the strength to do phone calls, follow ups, and those types of activities, hiring someone will not fix you not having someone to support you with sales. It's important to know what will be those responsibilities and what are the skills that are needed for that type of person. And the great thing is that if right now it's just you, I highly recommend take bite-sized pieces to start creating your SOPs. And those are your systems and procedures that for each and every part of your business. And the biggest part about it is not just looking at the macro part of SOPs. Look at the small things. It can even be, how do you prep your event boxes, or how do you prep before the event? How do you clean up for before the event? What are the things that need to be in your kits before you go to specific events? And for those of us that are having vendors that are working with us, you want to also communicate what you're expecting from them so that they know what are the steps and procedures. In fact, even inside of my own event business, I have an onboarding process where I'm even communicating about timeliness and about professionalism. I do not assume that every person has the same style of professionalism or the same understanding about arriving on time. So you want to have something written out and having the time or making the time to be able to go over these things. So one of the things that we do inside of my business, and I'm sure there are some really fancy platforms out there that can help you with this as well. But in the beginning, it doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to be something that people are able to follow and understand. So the first thing that I like to do is take 1 to 2 minor things I want to focus on. So one of the things that we have SOPs on is, how do we even onboard our vendors? So I have steps that we created in a Google document. And what we do is that we have folders inside of Google Drive that's titled SOPs. And then for each part of our business, we have a folder for those specific sections of our business. And you can just write out a document that's easy to follow. For those of you that have CRMs, you can also create SOP videos on how you do specific things inside of your CRM. Just make it a centralized hub so that you're able to find all of the info and you can easily update it. And then the most importantly, when you hire someone, they can easily access it, because if it's only in your brain, that is not good. You want for people to have the ability to find the resources and the support that they need so that they can do the job in which you're hiring them to do. And the thing is that it's one thing to have a centralized place where you have all your SOPs, and it's another thing to also ensure that you're onboarding people properly. You want to walk them through the tools, the communications, the timelines that are expected. And this is even true for those of us that are working with vendors, because again, everyone has different experiences when it comes to business, and they all have different ways to actually execute their services. And you don't want to assume that everyone does it the same way, because they don't. So don't skip it. Don't just assume if I hired a DJ, they all do things the same way. No, they don't. And don't only go by their social media either. I will say that, because sometimes people put on a really big front when it comes to Instagram and TikTok, and then they can have the most horrendous experience on professionalism and timeliness. So you do want to ensure that you do not leave anything open for chance. And it also gives them the opportunity to communicate anything that might be of a concern for them as well. And the key to all of this is just creating a space for clear communication. And this helps you with really truly having a solid foundation, because when you allow for gaps for people to make assumptions, it does not work well. I mean, anyone that is a Samuel L. Jackson fan, we all know what he says about assumptions. So don't be that, and don't do that with your own business. The reality is that hiring without a plan is like inviting someone to help cook, but hiding the recipe. So take the time to have clarity on the roles in which you're wanting someone to support you with, have a process for them to follow, and then taking the steps necessary so that you can onboard them correctly. Once you have done this, now this is where it's super important to have open communication. You want to be able to create a space where you can openly communicate, heavy on the healthy, because some people do not know how to communicate in a healthy manner. And I've had those experiences. And the thing is you want to look at your contractors, your team members, your partners as just that, partners, not employees that you get to bark orders to. And years ago, when I took on getting better at leadership, I came to this mindset is that even though everyone that works with me as a vendor, I see them as a partner of my team. And I wanted to create a space where people enjoyed working with me and that they felt valued and heard. That might sound too earthy, crunchy, hippie for you, but that was really the saving grace of the momentum that my business was able to have. And when I really stepped into that, sometimes it was challenging. Even still today, I need to get better or get back to how I was pre-pandemic. But what really helped was that in 2018, because I had already a year prior took on this mindset that when my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, my vendors were like, no, go take care of your mom. Just tell us what we need to do. And we were able to have everything go as smoothly as possible with very minimal hiccups. And some people love the fact to hear that, like, I haven't personally had to really go to any event since 2018. I don't even live where majority of my events are executed. I just do what I love to do, which is administrative work. I don't physically need to go to events. For some people, they can't do that. They don't want to do that. Where some are like, oh, I would love to be able to. There's pros and cons to it, but I only share that because the only reason why I'm able to step and do what I do today and the way that I do it is because I had to step into the power of having solid communication for people to talk with me or talk to me, even when I do something wrong. So it's important for you to think about what is going to be a consistent level of communication, especially for those of us that have team members and vendors. One of the things that I do love to do is once a quarter, I like to have phone calls with my vendors to find out what's on their agenda, what are some things that they're focusing on, so that they may share with me something really cool that can be a concept that I can even offer to my clients. But most importantly, it shows that I'm also enrolled in what they're up to. And that has paid dividends for me and my team. In fact, I have vendors that I've worked with for over almost 10 years because of this. And even with them going in and out of their own business, it's been great because when they do come back, it's just like nothing stops. And it's always a great experience for the both of us. And the way that you can communicate can be different. Sometimes what I like to do is I send out a general email once a quarter. Hey, just want to give you an update. These are the things that we're focusing on as a business. If there's anything that you would like to contribute to or something that you're focusing on, please just respond back. And once they do that, what I then do is I'll say, hey, let's schedule a time to talk. Or it might just be an email. I just want to get everyone on board with some of the things we're focusing on. I would love to schedule a call with each and every one of you and talk to you about that. I've done group calls, I've done individual calls, I've done um, a variety of different things. It's not about it being complicated. It's about you being consistent and also allowing a space for people to communicate with you. So once you do schedule these calls or decide on how you're going to be doing this communication, you want to think to yourself, what are some questions that you can ask in those calls? And one of the questions I love to ask is feedback even for myself. Like, what are some things that you think that we can be doing better? What are some recommendations on how we can up level X, Y, and Z? But I also want to ask them, is there anything that will help you with doing your job better or you're executing your services better? What I find is by doing this, it really puts you in a position that people feel open to talk to you about things that may not be necessarily always the feel good kind of communication, because honestly, I don't need to always have someone talk to me about all the feel goods because that doesn't help our business grow. That doesn't help us with providing better services with our clients. And the thing is that you want it to be that you have those spaces so that even if something goes bad, you already have a rapport with the individuals so that you can have an open communication. What happens is because when we don't take the time to build rapport with vendors or team members, when things go bad, they really go bad. Or someone leaves or the relationship is just completely ended in a negative way. I don't mind if someone expresses their discomfort or their anger about something I did. I don't care about that because I'd rather you say that to me than not. Because I feel like when somebody stops talking to you, then the communication is done. So I just rather someone to feel comfortable with telling me when things are going wrong because it allows for me to actually get better and it allows for us to grow together. And the thing is that remembering that communication beats control. People don't mind accountability at all. They mind being confused or unheard. You already know HoneyBook can make your life easier. However, you may be in a position where you know that you're not using the automations or any of the really cool features to the fullest of its capacity. Let's be real, learning how to set up a CRM can feel challenging. So if you're tired of DIYing your CRM so that you can actually start to convert clients and feel the ease from using this platform, it's time for you to check out my Done For You services so that you can get access to workflows, templates, and automations. My Done For You services are intended to make your event business thrive. So let's take the headache out of the process and get started together because you deserve to be able to focus on what you want to focus on, which is your business, which is to make money inside of your company. So are you ready to have a system that's working for you? If so, click in the description so that you can set up a free consultation with me today. One of the challenges that sometimes people can feel when it comes to all that I'm saying, it sounds so lofty. It sounds for some people very overwhelming. But the core of it is just letting go and trusting the process. If something goes bad, it's not the end of the world. I know it feels this way because believe me, I've had some really messed up things happen, but it comes down to how you own up to it, how you handle it. I've had some bad situations occur, but because the way I was able to listen to my client or my team member, we were able to still keep relationships or we were able to still have a good outcome at the end of the day. And the thing is that sometimes it's okay to let your team fail safely, keyword, because that's how you learn. That's how they learn, and that's how you learn. But if we take the beginning steps of making sure we're having clear communication, we're onboarding them correctly, and that we're doing all that we can do in the earlier parts, it's not ever as bad as what we think. It's just that when we skip over all of those other things, it's going to be a dumpster fire. Like you just hire someone today and you want them to go to an event tomorrow and you don't know anything about them. That is going to be chaotic. That's why you don't want to wait till the last minute to make those types of decisions. So you want it to be that they are able to learn, and it also helps you with learning too, because mistakes are a part of the delegation. And it's coming to terms with the fact that they are not you. In fact, in some ways, they may be able to do things a little bit better than you. And then they're going to be in other aspects, things that they're not going to do to the same standard or quality. And that comes down to you just letting go and understanding that people are doing their best, or you learning how to train them so that they can get as close as possible. And the thing is that you want to be able to give feedback early and often, not just when things are going wrong. You want to encourage people when they're doing great, and then you want to learn how to be able to communicate when something isn't done well. So this is why it's important for you to have a clear vision on who you're hiring and doing proper hiring or partnerships in the beginning. Do not skip this step, because if you do, that's where the heartache and the headache exist. Whenever I've skipped that step, maybe out of desperation or over eagerness, that's when it's always backfired. So be proactive and productive with your onboarding process and your team building. And the thing is to always keep in mind what is the vision of the company and what they are getting to do, and also to remind them about the bigger picture, because sometimes people can disconnect from it. You'll think that they know that what they do makes a difference, especially for those of us that have smaller teams. Some people really don't know. And if you don't tell them, and if you're not growing in your leadership to be able to make people feel as if they're valued, then it's very easy to disconnect. So it's important to learn how to let go, but also building up the confidence of your team members so that they even feel like they can do this. Because if all you're doing is telling people how much they suck or what they're not doing right, you're going to build a team that's always going to be relying on you because they're not confident in being able to step up to your standards. But that is a part of growing in leadership. And so you want to take the time to do that. And the way to look at it is that this is ultimately created for you to be able to not always just step away, but to step up as a CEO and a business owner. If you're always having to micromanage each and every component of your business, it really is going to be even more overwhelming than you doing it by yourself. When you can learn how to intentionally empower your team and your vendors, people will find solutions. I remember there was this one time when my team had to execute an event and certain things were missing. They were able to find a solution and everything without me even having to get into the conversation, because I've learned, and yes, it's a continuous process for me to get better, is like I make sure I'm aligned with the right people, and I try to really work on empowering people to be able to figure out their own solutions. And it takes time to get there. I've been doing this for 15 years, and there's always going to be ways to improve, especially as different generations are coming into place, because we have to remember at this specific time, we have individuals between 25 to 65, and those are different generations, millennials to Gen Z to Gen Alpha, Gen X. They all communicate differently. They all get enrolled different ways. And don't think, oh, my person that's been working with me 15 years, they get it. It's just the new people, they don't get it. No, you might not be clear about how to get them involved and enrolled in your vision. So it's important to just remember, leaders don't need to hover. They guide, they check in, and they focus on the big picture. So I want to give you some things to think about and some quick action steps that can potentially be powerful for those of you that take the time to do this. I want you to take the time to review the last event that you had and the contractors that worked with you. I want you to think about, did you have clarity? I want you to think about, did you define the deliverables? Was there a clear set of expectations prior to the event or the service? Did you enroll them in the vision in which you're trying to create? Did you provide them with any tools or resources that would have helped them with arriving at events, to know everything in which the client was expecting? Did you communicate timelines to them as far as when they should be arriving or the necessary dates and times that needed to be communicated to them in a timely manner so that they can execute their parts of that event? And if you aren't quite sure, reach out to them, because some of you might like, I do everything amazing. I know this is very tempting to say. I do not do everything amazing. I'm honest with you. I'm honest with myself. There's always room for improvement. I do well. However, I know that there's ways in which I can continue to improve. So take the time, reach out to the people that worked with you on your last event and ask them, especially for those of you that are on the vendor side. Reach out to the planners and ask, what are some things that you could potentially have been doing better? You want to be able to be a great leader for your own team, but also you want to be a great resource to the people that you're supporting. This may seem like a lot, but just choose one area or choose one vendor that you have worked with in the past and have this conversation with them to give you this feedback, and then think to yourself, how can you implement some of those changes or some of the feedbacks that was given so that you're able to improve how you're executing your services? And let's remember, you don't need to do it all, and you don't need to watch everything like a hawk either. You just need the systems that support your people and a mindset that supports you. I would love to know from you, how do you rate yourself when it comes to being a leader inside of your own business? You can send me a DM on Instagram at Green Eyed Ambition, or for those of you that are watching on YouTube, comment below. I'm here to hear from you, and we're creating this podcast to help you succeed and have a better understanding of this industry. And if you're someone that needs even more guidance, and if you're ready to set up a better system for you and your team, I do offer a free 15-minute business system audit. And I'll make sure to have it in the show notes. And it's perfect for those of you that have multiple six-figure businesses and you're looking to get more clarity for the next level.